Elements are the simplest form of substance inside our body. And when these elements bond together, it can form compounds. Now, we have two different kinds of compounds. And compounds, as we define, it is the combination of two or more elements. We have two examples of compounds, the inorganic and organic compounds. Let us focus in organic compounds. Organic compounds are carbohydrates, lipids, proteins, and nucleic acid. So today we are going to discuss those four. In our previous meeting, we discussed about the importance of carbon in human existence. Discussed its ability to form bonds with carbon and with other elements such as hydrogen, at yung ating alkanes, alkenes, and alkynes. So doon pa lang sa ating naming of hydrocarbons, madami na talagang mafo-form na organic compounds ang carbon. And as of today, there are 10 billion known organic compounds that are known. And at this moment, we are going to dig in more of these organic compounds and mostly of the bigger molecules or the macromolecules, which are very essential in human existence. Biomolecules. So biomolecules, it could also be called macromolecules because of its relatively large size, and these are organic compounds that make up an organism, and it helps organisms to carry out life processes. We have four major biomolecules: the carbohydrates, the lipids, the proteins, and the nucleic acids. All of these contain carbon and hydrogen and all other elements, and as we know, without carbon, life would not be possible. But before proceeding to each one, we have to understand three terms: the monomer, polymer, and the isomer. Monomer coming from the words mono, which means one, and mer, which means part. So that's only one part. These are small molecules that can be joined together chemically to form a larger molecule, and these large molecules are now called polymer. Monomer can be a polymer through the process called polymerization, wherein monomers chemically bonds together in order to form a polymer. Polymer, on the other hand, it came from the word poly, which means many, and mer, which means part. So it has many parts, deriving from its definition. It is comprised of repeating small molecules, monomers, and when these monomers bond together, it can form polymer. Isomer are molecules that have the same molecular formula but differ in the arrangement of elements. Let's now have carbohydrates. It is an organic compound that is the main source of energy for all organisms. And together with proteins, it serves as a structural component in our living cells. Carbohydrates are made up of carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen, wherein the proportion of these elements is 1:2:1. And there are three main groups for our carbohydrates: the monosaccharides, the polysaccharides, and the disaccharides. Monosaccharides are simple sugars that has only one sugar unit. And they are classified based on the number of carbon they contain. And we have three different classifications for monosaccharides: the triose, the pentose, and the hexose. Triose are monosaccharides that has 3 carbons, and the example for these is the glyceraldehyde, which is C3H6O3. Next one is pentose, which are the monosaccharides that has 5 carbons. An example for pentose is our ribose, which is C5H10H5. And the last example for our monosaccharides are the hexoses, or the monosaccharides that has 6 carbons. And the best example for our hexoses or hexose is our glucose, which is C6H12O6. Other examples includes dextrose, which is blood sugar, fructose, which are sugar that is derived from fruits, galactose, and mannose, which all has 6 carbons. All of them has a proportion of 1:2:1 for carbon, hydrogen, and oxygen. And let us now have the second classification of carbohydrates, which are the disaccharides. Disaccharide, from the word itself, di and saccharides, di which means two and saccharides which means sugar. Disaccharides are complex sugars that is made of 2 molecules of monosaccharides. And the process of combining 2 molecules of monosaccharides is called dehydration synthesis or condensation. In dehydration synthesis, each molecule of monosaccharide loses 1 molecule of water so that they can combine. Taking sucrose as an example, it is a combination of 2 monosaccharides which are glucose and fructose. Glucose and fructose being C6H12O6, when combined to become a sucrose, it will be C12H22 and O11. Sucrose is our common table sugar, and it is derived from sugar canes, carrots, and other fruits. Another disaccharide is our maltose or malt sugar. It occurs in malted cereals and sprouting grains and came from the combination of 2 glucose molecules. And the last disaccharide, which is lactose, and is also known as milk sugar, is derived from combining a glucose molecule and a galactose molecule. And as we said a while ago, a disaccharide is formed when we combine 2 molecules of monosaccharide through the process of dehydration synthesis or condensation or deducting a hydrogen molecule. But we can also reverse the process or bring back a disaccharide to become again a monosaccharide. It could be heating or it could be treating with suitable enzymes. And the process of segregating a disaccharide is hydrolysis or hydrolytic reaction. If in condensation we deduce a hydrogen molecule, in hydrolysis or hydrolytic reaction, we add hydrogen or H2O. Taking sucrose as an example, it could go back on being a glucose and a fructose by means of the process hydrolysis. And those are our disaccharides. Sucrose, which is the combination of a glucose and fructose molecule. A lactose, which is the combination of glucose and galactose molecule. And maltose, which is the combination of 2 glucose molecules. Let us now have the third classification of carbohydrates, which are the polysaccharides. These are complex sugars that is made up of branches and chains of monosaccharides formed by condensation reactions. And the basic formula for polysaccharides are C6H10O5 sub N, where N refers to the number of monosaccharides present in a polysaccharide. Polysaccharides are capable of being a storage of energy and as part of our cell structures. We have 4 major types of polysaccharides: the starch, glycogen, cellulose, and chitin. Starch and glycogen serves as storage of energy, while chitin and cellulose serves as cellular structure. Starch is a polysaccharide that is made up of entirely glucose molecules. And one starch molecule may contain 200 molecules of glucose. It is commonly found in potatoes, tubers, cassava, carrots, corn, and cereals. And it is easily digested by animals because of the enzyme amylase. Glycogen, on the other hand, are stored glucose in the muscles and livers of invertebrates. And like starch, it is made of entirely glucose molecules. During digestion, glucose and other monosaccharides are used by the cells. And the unused glucose is stored in the liver and assembled as glycogen for future use. If animals are not capable of storing glycogen, then they need to eat every minute of their life. And the third polysaccharide is the cellulose, which is the most abundant organic compound on Earth. It is a structural polysaccharide that it can be found in the cell walls of plants. It is a rich supply of glucose, but unfortunately, man and other animals cannot digest it because of the lack of the enzyme cellulase. Cellulose is part of the diet of carabaos, cows, horses, and goats, but they rely on the bacteria found in their digestive tract in order to digest it. Nevertheless, cellulose is important because it is a source of fiber and it reduces cholesterol and constipation. Chitin, on the other hand, is a structural polysaccharide that can be found in the outer coverings of crustaceans and other insects. And because of its complex structure, it is very inflexible and rigid. It is highly insoluble and does not expand in water, making animals with chitin as their structure able to survive in aquatic environments. And those are our carbohydrates, which